Hollywood's Nostalgia Addiction, presented by me, Oliver Grandmont. Nowadays, Hollywood is not just selling movies, they're selling memories. Many recent movie releases are either sequels, remakes, reboots, or based on some existing intellectual property. So why does Hollywood keep recycling these old films? Well, the short answer is that Hollywood has discovered a way to harness the power of the emotion nostalgia into a powerful marketing tool. By playing on audiences' longing for the past, Hollywood pumps out films that are carried by nostalgia and franchise reputation. These films are rarely as impactful or well-made as the originals, yet still perform extremely well in the box office. This raises the question, how has Hollywood's use of nostalgia impacted artistic integrity in the film industry as a whole? Well, studios prioritize financial gain over creativity, relying on sequels and remakes that rarely live up to the originals. Virginia Commonwealth University student Muir studied the psychological effect of reading a familiar book. She found the consumption of familiar media, quote, elicited greater nostalgia and social connectedness than new media. Movie sequels are so successful for the same reason. Nostalgia enhances emotional engagement. Dr. Zhu, a media professor at Bowling Green State University, further explains the effect of nostalgia. He found nostalgic marketing makes people more likely to spend time and money on nostalgic experiences. The research question is strongly supported by the stimulus piece False Nostalgia by Johann Norberg. Norberg explains the power of nostalgia, where people will go so far out of their way as to construct fake ruins like this castle in an effort to return to a romanticized past. Audiences aren't just nostalgic for the past, but for a past that never really existed in the way they remember. This emotional pull makes nostalgia-based films financially successful, even when they disappoint creatively and fail to recapture the romanticized past that audiences hope for. Hanas, professor of business strategy at the International Institute for Management Development, identifies sequels as pure exploitation films built solely to exploit consumer nostalgia, and they work. 41 of the 50 highest-grossing films of all time are either sequels, remakes, or reboots. Postdoc researcher Dan explains the problem with the success of these films. It reinforces Hollywood's incentive to rely on nostalgia-driven products, knowing they will turn a profit no matter the effort that is put in. English professor and film scholar Lidge expands on this, criticizing the film industry's notorious economic conservatism, which leads studios to choose financial safety and franchises instead of taking creative risks. Disney is probably the biggest culprit of exploiting nostalgia. They have expanded into a film empire, buying up rival studios to eliminate competition. Their acquisition of Lucasfilm and Marvel has built a franchise monopoly. To illustrate the decline of quality as franchises drag the name of a franchise, let's compare the Rotten Tomatoes scores of the first versus most recent films in Star Wars, a franchise now owned by Disney. Rotten Tomatoes shows the percentage of critics and audiences that gave a positive review to the film. The first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, was released in 1977 and grossed $307 million domestically during its box office run. The most recent film in the franchise, The Rise of Skywalker, was released in 2019 and grossed $512 million domestically. According to Rotten Tomatoes, despite grossing $200 million more, Rise of Skywalker earned 45% fewer positive reviews from critics and 10% fewer positive audience reviews than its predecessor. Rise of Skywalker was widely criticized for its lazy writing. One infamous line, somehow, Palpatine returned, undermines the original trilogy just to bring back popular character Emperor Palpatine, who died at the end of the Return of the Jedi, which was the final film in the original series. Forbes media journalist Kane explains that Disney prioritized fan service over narrative depth, and writers attempted to appeal to multiple generations, recycling themes and characters, which resulted in an incoherent, nostalgia-reliant mess. So, how is the pure exploitation strategy affecting the film industry? University of Melbourne lecturer Rose Warren argues that Hollywood now treats movies less as artistic works and more as investments to extract profits from, which leads to less originality and innovation across films. This reliance on old films will likely harm the future film industry, as Professor of Philosophy of Communication Leon warns nostalgia loses its impact when overused. Once it stops working, the industry may find there's no creative foundation left to fall back on. Some argue that high box office numbers prove that audiences want these films. The 2019 Lion King remake made over $1.6 billion worldwide, making it one of the highest grossing films of all time. It had decent audience scores even if critics weren't impressed. This argument can be refuted. Box office numbers don't equal quality. They reflect demand, often fueled by nostalgia. This actually supports the thesis. Hollywood profits off of consumer nostalgia by relying on safe, unoriginal remakes. As Top Film magazine notes, studios choose remakes not because for more predictable profits, not because they are better or more wanted. And as these graphs show, critic scores have been steadily dropping for top-grossing films. Moving forward, the goal for Hollywood should not be to replace originality with nostalgia, but to use nostalgia to enhance storytelling. Hollywood needs to find a better balance, honoring successful franchises while also investing in fresh, original narratives that can shape the future of film. Because in the end, if the industry refuses to innovate, even the most devoted audiences will grow tired of the same recycled stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. So, Oliver, what evidence did you gather that you did not include, and why did you choose not to include it?
So my research area started off very broad, and I was collecting information. I was trying to focus on peer-reviewed sources, and I collected all kinds of information for all kinds of consumerism. So I had video games, I had pop culture, I had books, all kinds of studies explaining why nostalgia affects these areas and makes more money. And so I narrowed it down and chose to go down the more focused path of movies in Hollywood, and so I eliminated a lot of the other areas of marketing.
Okay, and then what conclusions or questions of others fed your research or advanced your ideas?
Sure. So my own conclusion was really just an aggregate of all of the studies and critic scores and reviews that I collected together, which all pointed towards this kind of riveting conclusion, which is, if Hollywood continues down this path of recycling content, it may run out of profit, and it's not a viable option forever. Audiences will grow tired, and this was a collection of all of these critic scores and audience reviews, which were all criticizing and seeming to get more and more tired of these films as the years progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.